Welcome back, Dr. Johnson. We are here with our third segment on motivation and change for pretty much any behavior you want to change. So this has been so useful, so helpful, and
it's been fun.
Yeah, this has been awesome. So you're going to answer some questions for us in this segment, and at the end, I will tell people how they can find you.
Great.
Let's get started.
Yeah. So then the next piece is then talk about is what we call self-efficacy. So the question is, if you decided to make that change, do you think you could?
Oh.
Right, because a lot of people, we talked about the initial phase of that motivation cycle as being either I can't or I won't.
Yeah, no, I've heard that a lot. I want to change, but I can't.
Right. So the motivation may be really strong.
Capable.
They just feel like they don't have the skills or the ability or the energy or whatever it is to
and I've heard that.
To make that change.
Interesting.
So then you know what your strategy is. So and that's a pretty cool place to be in, because it's a lot easier to work with skills and technique or strategy than it is trying to put motivation in somebody who doesn't have it.
Right.
So the next step is, again, we're still leaving responsibility for change on their shoulders. I'm not taking it on mine, right? As a result, I'm able to be there present without a lot of emotional reactivity, right? Because it's not my issue. Right. I love them, care for them, would love to see them get healthy, but I'm not going to bring my stuff to this process. And so then we can talk about what obstacles do you foresee in trying to roll this change out? So it's not about me identifying their obstacles, but this hangs them on the hook and say they have to literally stop and go, yeah, why have I been stuck in this? What tends to come up that either trips me up and causes me to relapse, or I hit a wall and don't make further gains? Well, it's this and this. So then the final question is, so how might you work around that? It's not about, here, have you tried this, or this, or here's things that worked for this person I saw yesterday. Again, I'm sitting on my tongue and sitting on my hands at this point, right?
And at what point do you give them suggestions?
Well, it's about if they run into a wall and say, gosh, I don't know, I keep following this, here's the obstacle, I have no idea how to get around this, then you can ask permission. Well, would you be open for some recommendations?
It's funny, that's what I do as a parent.
Yeah, so this is often the case. It's not about developing a new skill set. It's about generalizing.
Yeah, I know. I let my daughter struggle.
Yeah.
Right. The more you struggle, the better, because then you have to come ask me for help.
Yeah.
But I wait till she asks me for help.
So it's about using that same awareness, that still mindset, that skill set, and generalizing it more broadly.
Okay.
Rather than just in one domain of your life.
Okay, that actually makes sense. I mean, because as a parent, it makes sense to me. I get so frustrated in this one spot, in this one place of trying to help someone with something I don't really understand. And there's so many things. I mean, I know that a lot of people who are watching this probably have similar experiences or maybe other ones, but it's hard. You get burnt out. I don't know why sometimes they lie when they don't need to, when you're already helping them and you already know what's going on. Why are you lying to me? Like, I'm so confused, right? It's like bizarre.
Well, one thing that's helpful on that is the more we can slow down and kind of, it's helpful to have like a bank of memories for how we've struggled with our own change that we can bring to the table. Right. Right.
But what happens when you actually share that with them and they still do it?
Well, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Right? But at least but keeping a level playing field, so you're not up here and they're down here, right, really helps avoid that resistance, and it normalizes the process. They don't see themselves as sick, or it's not about lack of self-discipline or effort or intention, right? It's just normal human process of growth.
Right. Okay, I like that.
So by taking them through those 5 questions, now they've identified what they want to change, why they want to change it, the obstacles that may come up that they run into that will make it more difficult, and then workarounds they're going to try to get around those obstacles, right? So now, right, they're owning this process. This is something they've come up with. It's not something you're saying, I really think you should do this, right? So now all you're going to do is how can I support you in this process? So you think about how can I do a little contracting here. So let's take this out of the abstract and make it concrete, but in a really simple and practical way. So how might you start, right? So if you start exercising more this next week, what would that look like? I don't know. I guess, gosh, I'm exhausted at home, but maybe I could, when I get home, maybe I could, take a 10-minute walk 3 days a week. Awesome. So you're saying, right? So based on, the goals you want to achieve, you're saying when you get home, even though you're tired, just getting your tennis shoes on, get some shorts on, and just walking for 10 minutes 3 times a week is where you want to start. You think that's workable?
Right.
Right? Because you want them to overreach. You want to have
No,
them have
that's
a
actually
successful
right.
experience, right?
Right.
Because once they start
Because they're going to
feeling
feel good.
better,
Right.
they're either going to increase the duration or the intensity,
right.
or both. Confidence is going to grow. You start, sleeping better. Losing weight, libido is going to be higher.
Right.
Right. It's a win-win.
It's right.
So
All of it,
right?
and then as you sleep better, you want to do more. Right. Yeah, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's a cycle of improvement.
And so once they learn how to do that with one problem behavior, that skill starts generalizing. They can start applying it to other things in their life that have previously been out of bounds.
Awesome. It totally makes sense. I like that.
Well, it's practical. That's
It
what
is
I like
practical.
about it, right?
It's
real.
I mean, the only part that I think that would probably take practice, because it took me a lot of practice to learn the parenting thing. A lot. Like it was way harder than I ever anticipated.
man.
I'm like, this is nuts, but parenting is just not supposed. So I realized it wasn't my daughter that was a problem. It was me. I had to learn how to parent, right, effectively. And so it was a very proactive approach on my part. But I can see where this is going to take practice. It's going to take, you're not going to get it right. If you're very authoritative, like you're going to do this or else type of person, and you see the destruction going on in your family, it's going to take practice to sit back and let this happen. So to sit on your hands and
Well, it's easier.
let them own it.
This is why teaching it is helpful. So because if you have a process to follow that gives you a way of managing that change process, it's much easier than to sit back and not get reactive or frustrated with the process. And so they can sense that patience, that compassion, and you're you're honoring them. You're leaving the responsibility for change on their shoulders.
Right.
Right. So they tend not to push back as much.
Well, and as the caretaker, just for a second, I mean, I know as in the parenting process, I felt bad for not being a good parent when I finally realized, oh, I'm not a good parent, and it's my job to become a better parent. I mean, I think in this process, it's okay. I had to learn how to give myself grace and just go, okay, this is going to take me time. It's okay if I don't do it right off the bat.
Perfect, right.
Right. It's okay if it takes me time. I have to keep doing it over and over. This is a process. I'm still unclear on one thing. Do we have time to just so this idea of the fine line between, I just need to clarify one thing. You know me well enough to know that this is going to be on my mind. So I'm just going to give you a real life example. So we're doing a lot to support someone and in her recovery. And we are fully committed to it because there's a lot of people involved that are at risk. It needs to happen. It's not that it needs to happen. It needs to happen if she wants it to happen. But I'm concerned about other people in the family if it doesn't happen. That's my concern, right? So, right, there's ripple effects. So it's not like we can just back out. That's not going to happen. So, but there's a point where it's so painful, this back and forth thing, not just for us, less for me than other people that are involved. So there are dependents and things like that are involved, right? And there's a point where actually when I get irritated, I get authoritative. When I get scared, that's not what I do. And when I finally got to the point where I felt hopeless, that's when I stepped back and I went, sweetie, it's up to you, but this is all I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z. You're going to choose to do whatever you're going to do, but let me tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because
Good.
That's just the reality.
Right. So
the reality is this is going to happen if you keep on this road.
So here's a big piece.
Because there are legal issues, there are all sorts of things, right?
The point that you recognize that it actually is okay and can be healthy to set effective boundaries and personal limits.
But that's not a threat.
Right. It's not. There's a difference between a threat and a boundary. Boundary is simply saying, here's as far as I can go and still stay healthy. Right.
Well, and the rest of the family.
And minimize the impact on the rest of the family. So you're free to say, this is a boundary I'm gonna personally set. Now I'm here for you, and I'm absolutely committed to your well-being, and so I want to help you work through this other process. But both are important, right? So I want you to find your reason, your why for making this change. But in the process, you can't drive with the kids in the car after you've been drinking. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you do, I may have to tell the DMV and have them bring or take steps to ensure that the kids are safe. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right. So we can do both in a way that's loving, that's supportive, and that's sound, from a conceptual standpoint. But oftentimes what we do is feel like it's either or. We have to be sort of, a raging, frustrated, end of the line, kind of guy.
Right.
Or we can only do the supportive, loving, motivational piece. No, you can do both responsibly at the same time.
Oh yeah, no, I told her, I said, I love you and I can easily forgive you because I understand what addiction does, but I cannot let this happen.
Yeah.
Like, this cannot happen. So, because it's a safety issue.
Right.
So,
right.
Excellent. So I was just curious if that would be perceived as a threat by the person.
So in that sense, it's easy. So it's helpful to go back to using I statements, right? So, I get so frightened when you come home late. I get scared when I think of you driving after you're drunk, right? And so as opposed to saying you needed to stop doing this, you need to start doing this, right? See the difference, right? So the I statements tend to connect with someone emotionally, tends to melt their resistance. The other, pointing, commanding, coercing, shaming, tends to increase their resistance, their pushback, right?
Got it. Okay, well that actually helps clarify that, because I know people struggle with that. It's a hard road.
Yeah, it's hard for everybody. It's for docs, for therapists, for parents, right? Everybody. It ain't easy.
This was good. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Love it. Hope this was helpful to you guys. Please leave your comments below. This is Dr. Johnson. He is at our Costa Mesa clinic. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, please reach out. It's not an easy road. It's a hard road, but it's so worth putting the effort in to get well. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.